Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy. And I got a special treat this week. It's a once-in-a-blue-moon vehicle. It's the Mercedes Geländewagen, or G-Class, for those of you not familiar with this exceptionally unusual vehicle. You don't see them very often, and that is one of the perks of ownership. You get to drive something that doesn't look like every other SUV on the road. To look at it, you might think that it's a carryover. The Geländewagen's appearance has remained largely the same for many decades, which again is part of its charm. The sort of corrugated square box military-looking thing that you see in front of you. But the 2019 is actually entirely new. They revised the whole thing, including, most importantly, the interior. And that was a tough trick for them to pull off. Meaning keeping the rugged and high-performance bona fides of this vehicle while also updating it to be agreeable to the people who are spending $124,000 to start for the G500, and then another $20,000 or so on top of that for this one, which is the G63, which is the AMG tuned version that has this absolutely magnificent twin-turbo 4.4 liter V8, which I'm going to try and show you here. Unfortunately, it's fairly hidden, and that's a shame. I wish that Mercedes would have done what Chrysler has done with their ultra performance vehicles and let you see the thing. So here it is. It's got a nice carbon fiber cover on it, but it's really hard to see the brilliant jewel that lies underneath of it. And by the way, that carbon fiber trim that you see, and I'll show you also on the inside, that's a $3,700 option on this puppy. We're really in a very special league of car here. But again, I wish that they had somehow managed to package the engine just a little bit differently. That's one of the very few things that I can find to make any sort of negative comment about. Well, there's one more thing that's actually both a negative and a positive. Let me show you the positive. Here's something that you probably have not seen in a whole long time, and that is, look at it, a door handle, grab handle with a push button lock. Remember these? Haven't seen these probably in about 20 years. I think the G-Class is the only new vehicle other than military vehicles that still has that. So to get into the car, all you millennials, look, this is what you do. You got to push the button, and that opens up the door. Anyway, so once you open up the door, you get inside here, and as you'll be able to see here, let me crank it up. But first, let me show you the one thing about the G-Class that is an objective complaint. It's a small complaint, but it's worth mentioning. These doors really have to be slammed. I found multiple times that if I just close the door the way that you ordinarily would with any modern car, they don't quite close, and then you get the little message in the dashboard that tells you that the door isn't closed, and then you got to reach over and heave it closed. So this is a manly car, and to close the door, you got to grab that handle and give it a really manly pull. If you do it any less than that, the door is not going to fully close, just FYI. All right, so I'm going to pan around the interior here, kick it up. Oh, and by the way, let me show you one other thing before I do that. Look at this, side pipes. Real side pipes on both sides of the car. How cool is that? A Mercedes with side pipes. So you got 4 exhaust tips, 2 on each side. Anyway, to get back to the objective review, as you can see, the vehicle now has an interior that is appropriate to a vehicle in this price range. Essentially, Mercedes put in a dashboard that's very similar to what you'd find in the new S-Class or the E-Class, instead of the former pod-style gauges, which looked really fine if the vehicle was made in 1995, but not so much now. So it's got all of the functionality that you'd find in any of the other high-end cars, and it still has the front and center and the rear locking differentials, and it's got the nearly 10 inches of standard ground clearance, which actually is more than the previous G-Class, except for the squared version, which is a sub-model that cost almost $250,000, and not really analogous to this one here. You can see the nice LED backlighting as well that you've got. So it's now very comfortable in here, very nice. And here's a look at some of that carbon fiber that you get for your, I think it's $3,700 extra to get that package. And at this price point, why not? You might as well indulge. The G also has tremendous headroom for both rows, which it's always had, but it's just a much more comfortable and civilized vehicle now, even though it's also an incredibly ferocious vehicle. The 63 that I'm sitting in right now, again, has the 4.4 liter V8 that's been amped up to 577 horsepower and 620 something foot-pounds of torque, which is significantly more than the previous G63. And it's got Mercedes 9-speed automatic now instead of the 7-speed that was installed formerly. The G65, the ultra performance with 700 and something foot-pounds of torque, has been discontinued, but no big deal. One of the most cool things about this G63 is that you've got this big honking, probably, I don't know, 5,000-pound SUV that is almost as quick as a new Corvette. If you can imagine putting a Corvette on its hind legs and standing it up vertically, and then running 0 to 60 or through the quarter mile, and the G63 can essentially do that. It can push itself through the wind. There's absolutely no consideration given whatsoever to the aerodynamic profile of this thing. This thing's all about its attitude, its cool style, its uniqueness. And there really is nothing like this on the market. So if you want a special SUV, if you want something no one else has got that can do almost anything, and by the way, that includes handle. Take it from me, I've taken this thing up and down Bent Mountain, which is a pretty challenging series of S-curves for about 2 miles that I use as my informal test track. And very impressed with what Mercedes has done with the suspension of this thing. It hardly leans at all unless you're really pouring the coals to it, which you probably shouldn't be doing. But it's night and day difference. They have massively improved this vehicle such that it's perfectly civilized now, which is remarkable. I mean, it's analogous to taking a Bengal tiger and completely taming the thing so that it sits at your lap while you're watching TV and eating potato chips. But when you need it to be a 400-pound Bengal tiger and eat whoever comes in your house, it will happily do that for you. Anyway, I should have more up at epautos.com, the web's best libertarian gearhead site, shortly, and I'll be on Bill Meyer's show tomorrow, probably talking about this a little bit, and also talking about the red light camera scam, and one aspect of that scam that some of you may already be familiar with, which is this deal where they send you the ticket in the mail and give you the option of narking out somebody else to save your own bacon. So it's no longer the burden of proof on them to establish who it was that ran the red light or ran faster than the speed limit. It's up to you to disprove your guilt or pass that guilt on to somebody else. So anyway, I've got an article up about that at epautos.com, and no doubt I'll be talking about that with Bill tomorrow on his radio show in Oregon. So thanks for viewing, and we'll catch up with you again soon.